Right, so I just had a quick break and I'm coming back to continue with the wiring and just having a look at where we are at the moment. So we finished with the sensors and the potentiometer, the header for the ultrasonic sensor and the LEDs are all done. I've also got the switch for the battery that supplies power to the Arduino and the sensors completed. So what's left to do now is to connect the switch to the battery that provides power to the motors and then wire that over to the motors. So for the motors we need to wire the positive voltage and the ground between the black and the red for the motors we need to connect. For the motors we need to wire in the wires that convey the positive voltage and the ground, and we also need to wire the signal wires to the PWM pins. I'm going to start with the power components, with the power wirings, and connect the battery to the switch and then connect the black and red wires from the motors to the ground rail and to the motor battery positive rail, and then I'm going to work on the signals. One thing that we've completed already, I'll just mark that as completed, are the capacitors. So I'm just using 2 capacitors instead of 3, and those capacitors are already inserted between the ground and the 6-volt positive rail in this part of the prototyping shield. So I'm going to continue now with connecting the switch to the battery. Alright, so let's have a look at let's have a look at the prototyping board. So we've already dealt with the ground terminal and the Arduino terminal. Now we need to work on the motor terminal at the M. The motor terminal is this pin right here, and I want to connect that over to this rail here. Actually no. So this is the terminal that conveys the positive voltage from the battery that I will be using with the motors. From here we need to convey that voltage to the second switch. This is the motor switch up here, so it's this switch here. So we need to connect this to this switch, and then from this switch we want to convey the voltage over to the positive rail right there, which is connected to the positive side of the capacitors. So now the question is, which one of the poles of the switch should I connect? So let's use the multimeter again. You can set it to continuity testing. And I want to see what the positions of the switch are before I decide how to connect the switch to the battery. So right now the position is off. I'm going to call this off just like we did with the bottom switch. When that position of the switch is off, then these 2 poles do not convey electricity. I'm going to push the switch now to the right and see what happens with those 2 poles. So now they convey electricity. Okay, so what I want to do with this information is I'm going to take the voltage from this pin, that's from the motor terminal on the screw terminal, connect it to this pin here, and then from this pin I'm going to use a wire to connect that voltage to this rail here, the motor positive voltage rail. And then from there I will distribute the positive voltage to the motors. So let's do that. I'm going to use a red jumper wire for that. So cut off a segment like this much. remove the insulation from one end, like that, and then measure. So I would like to grab to get the power from that location. So I'm just going to hold it with my thumb from there to there, to right there. So let's cut that bit off and remove the insulation. Okay. So let's position it then. Like that. Alright, I'll do the left side first and then move over to the right side of that wire. Okay, so that bit is done. Just make sure it stays. Okay. Yep, all good. And then move that over here. Like that. I may need to adjust it with the tweezers, but first I'll put a bit of solder on it. Okay, and then I use the tweezers to just put it in place a bit closer. Okay, done. All right. So that takes the voltage from the motor battery and puts it, or sends it over to the switch, one terminal of the switch. Then I want to connect the second terminal of the switch to any one of the pads on the positive voltage rail, which is that one here where the capacitors are connected. So I'll use another red jumper wire. Yep. I will remove insulation from one end of the wire. I'll just measure it at this point. Around there will be good. And I'll connect it also here. Alright, so I'm going to connect it right there on this pad. So I need about this much wire. Okay. Okay, so one bit is there. Use the other end actually. So I'll set it like that. Okay, put a bit of solder and I will need to adjust the position with my tweezers. Okay. make a bit of room right there in order to draw the second wire, red wire, a little bit closer to those pads. Put it right over it. Actually, I will bend it downwards so that I can insert it into the pad instead of just over it. Like that. That will make a better connection. Great. Okay, so let's check it. This should be the off position, so let's make sure that there is no connection between the battery pin and the power rail. Good. Let's push it to the on position now. And there should be a connection between this pin and this rail. Yes, great, awesome. Okay. And before I forget, I'd like to put the stickers or the labels next to the switches so that I know which way is on, which way is off, and which switch is for which part of the circuit. So the one on top is for the motors. Going to stick that here, and the one at the bottom is for the Arduino and its various peripherals. And I'll put that right here. Need my tweezers for that. It's right there. Okay. Okay, now where are we? Looking at the schematic, we've just connected this and this to the power rail. So now I'm going to connect the middle pin of the three headers to the positive supply voltage from the motor battery, which happens to be 6 volts here. So that is the middle pin for the three headers. So the middle pin for these three headers. So flip it over, and we've got this, and this pin. We need to connect it to somewhere on this, one of the pads on this column. So let's use, probably a good way to do that would be to first, I need to lift this wire up temporarily, and I can push it down again. But what I'd like to do is to first connect these two pads together, and then connect it to the third pad right under this blue wire. Like that. Be careful when you move wires around like this, because it might actually lift the pad on which the ends are connected, but here I've got enough distance, so that should be okay. Alright. So remove the insulation from the two ends. Let's see, maybe. What I'll do here is to use a single wire. I'll trim it a bit in order to create a bridge right there. A bit more. A little bit more trimming. Okay, that should do it. So that will go right there on top of those two pads. And that will create a nice bridge between the positive voltage middle pins of the header. Great. That pin got stuck onto the soldering iron. A little bit more solder. Just being very careful not to disturb anything around it, especially I don't want to disturb the insulation of the wires around. So I think that this is done. I'm going to measure first, make sure that the two pins on either side are connected. Nope. Yeah, so there is the bridge out here at the edge. Between this pin and that bridge needs a little bit more solder. Okay, that looks good now. Let's test it. Yes, that's good. So then I've got one more pin, which is this one here that I would need to connect. So probably the best way to do that is to use a red jumper wire. Remove some more insulation and place it like that. I'll need to trim it down, it's too long. Yep. Yep. Like that. And there should be enough solder there to make it possible to attach the right side. Let's see. Maybe need some more. got it now. Just need to move it slightly to the left. Okay, hopefully I haven't melted the insulation on the red wire. I'll check it in a second. Then I will move the wire on the left side. I'll push it down. Yep, that should do it. Before I solder that, I just want to make sure that this last solder has not interfered with the 5-volt rail that I created earlier. Yeah, it looks okay. Yeah, I can see a gap right under here, so that the red wire is not really touching on the 5-volt power rail that we created here earlier in this column, so it's okay. Now hopefully when I go ahead to solder the wire onto the last pin, we're not going to melt the blue wire there. Before I do that, I just need to push that further down a little bit more. There you go, so that it doesn't touch the blue wire at all. Right there. Okay. So let's do that solder. Right there. Alright, let's test now the conductivity of those 3 middle pins. Those convey the 5 volts to the motors. Oh, sorry, the supply voltage, whatever that might be, to the motors. So that, yep, they're all good. Okay, great. So visually on the schematic, what we've just done is to connect those pins together. And the next thing I need to do is to connect this one here, the remaining segment, in order to connect the 3 red wires to the power supply. Okay, so how do we do that? So what we want to do is to connect, let's go a bit closer here, is to connect this red wire or this bundle here to any one of the pads here. So grab another red wire. And one way to do it would be to insert that down there. Just getting a bit crowded though, so I'm a bit worried about that. I need to leave enough space for the adjoining pins to be connected to the ground and to the signals. So I'll try to, I will try to go straight, so over it. So I'm going to push the blue wire like that, over like that, and then I'm going to do my connection right there. There's a bit of the wire from the red jumper wire still exposed, so I'm going to be able to connect onto that and then can jump over to the power rail. Alright, so let's expose a bit of wire there, like that, and then measure. So we won't go from there to there. So we're going to need about this much wire for that. Okay. Just for stability, I can also insert that under the yellow wire. Yeah, like that. So then the yellow wire is going to hold the red wire in place. Like that. Okay. So lifting the blue wire so that there's no contact. And let's do this solder now. Great, done. Alright, so this bit is done. And then I will bend that wire downwards and connect it into that pad. Okay, done. Okay, let's check it out. The switch is on for the motors, and I will test to make sure that we've got the same, we've got a connection between the voltage supply for the motors and the middle pins for the motors. Alright, so motor, yep. Yes, yes, and if the switch is off, no, no, no. What about the grounds? We haven't done the grounds yet, of course. Speaking of ground though, should be able to get a connection here, yes, and here, yes, okay. Right, so let's see, what did we do so far? So the last connection we did was this one here. Great, so next, let's do the black wires, so the grounds. So now I can choose which. So I can choose whether I'd like this to be ground or that to be ground, but I need to be consistent for all headers. So if I decide that this should be the ground, then it should be the ground for all of the headers, and then this should be the signal. So let's see what the situation is on the other side. So our headers are right here, 1, 2, 3. Should use a tweezer for it's got a pointy end. So 1, 2, 3. The middle is the positive voltage. Then I can choose either this or this to be the ground, and whichever one I choose, the other one should be the signal. And that's because the headers from the motors, here's one, can either be connected like this or like that. At this point it doesn't really matter. I can do whatever is more convenient for the sake of the wiring. So let's see if I'll turn the board over and see what is more convenient. I need to connect the signal wires to digital pins 6, 11 and 10. So these are all on the digital pins header. So from here, I wanted to go here. So it looks like to me it's easier to connect those pins to any of the pins on the digital header via versus these. I would have to jump over other pins. So okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to connect these to ground, and then these to the signal pins. And while I'm at this, we'll trim some pointy ends from previous soldering so that they don't interfere. Alright, so I'm going to use the same technique as earlier. I'm going to use a pin, previous pin, to help me create a bridge right there, just like that. So let's trim this a bit to make it fit. Maybe slightly more. Okay, and to make it a bit easier, I'm going to deposit a bit of solder on those two pads, and then I'm gonna put that pin right there. Okay, and then cover it with solder. Well, so oops. Okay, one end is done. Let's do the other end. Oh great, now I've got a solder joint, solder bridge between the 5V positive and the ground. So now I've got a short circuit. Let's try to suck that solder out of there. Bit more. Okay, it doesn't look like there's a short circuit there, but I should test it either way. So 5V, still okay, and there's no short circuit between the two. Right, so let's try again. I need to add a bit more solder between the pin on the left and the bridge on the right. Okay, that should do it. Let's test it. Great, okay, that's good. And then I'm going to use a black wire since we are doing ground here. To connect this bridge with this pin. should be enough solder there to allow the black wire to stick. Yep. Put a little bit more just to be sure. Okay, and move it slightly. Okay. And just like earlier, I'm going to push, use a screwdriver for that to push that pin down in order to solder it. Actually, I will bend it towards the right as well, because I wanted to have some distance, safety distance from the blue wire. All right, so that's done. Test it. Great. The last thing to do here is to connect this to anything that has a black wire going to it. So if I could go from here to here, for example, that's probably the easiest thing to do. So grab another bit of black wire. Measure it, yep, that's long enough. So I'd like to connect that like that. Yep. That would do it. And I'll bend that back downwards and put it in the pad like that. Or close to the pad, doesn't really need to be in. Great. All right. Let's test now. Let's test the ground. So any one of those pads, ground pads, should have a connection to any one of those pins. Yeah. Great. Right. It's good. So back on the schematic, we are getting there. We're very close. Where is my blue pen? I'm sure I had it. Oh, here it is. So what we've just done was to finish with those connections and connect all the way to the common ground. So there's only 3 wires left to do, and that's the signal wires. So I need to connect, let's start maybe with the middle one. That's the easiest one for not making mistakes, because I I have connected the micro servo in the middle of the so the micro servo is the middle one of the three headers, so I'd like that to go to pin number 6, digital pin 6. So specifically what I'm saying is that this pin here is the middle pin, which is the signal pin. Oh, I think I've made I think that I've made a mistake. No, sorry, got confused for a second. Everything is okay. Black, white, yes, the white. So this pin here, this pin here, which is the signal pin. Sorry, start again. I'm really confused. Sorry, I'm confusing you as well. So at the moment what we have, let's do a check. We've got the ground pin, which the pins on the right side as you're looking at the board like this. So this is the front, this is the back, this is the right, and this is the left. So the first pin from the right, the first pin from the right is the ground pin, and we've tested that to be properly connected. Yes. Now the middle pin, this one here, is the positive pins for the motors. So we've tested them that they are all connected to each other, and with the switch, the motor switch on, the terminal, the positive voltage terminal, and those pins are also connected. Right, so what's left to do is to connect the signal pins. So the first pin from the left are the signal pins, and the one in the middle is the one that will be providing the signaling to the micro servo that moves the sensor around. So this pin here, which is this pin right here, needs to go to digital pin number 6, which is this pin right here. So it's the second from the left. So it's this pin right here. So I need to connect this pin to this pin. Okay, let's use a yellow jumper wire for that. So yellow jumper wire, cut a piece off. Remove insulation from one end, and let's measure then. I'd like that to go from there to there. So I'll cut there. Remove insulation. And I'll try to get this connected like this. I'm going to bend one end, and that will go here into digital pin 6, and then the other side I will just get it as close as I can to the signal pin and then solder it right there. I'm not going to go through another pin because that area is too crowded, so there's more space down the bottom, but that means that I've got to go just directly. Alright, so I'm going to solder the bottom first. Okay. Double check that I really soldered that into digital pin 6. Yep. That's right there. I should also test it just for the sake of sanity, because I've been working on this for about maybe 3 hours now. So I want to make sure that I've got the right pins. Yep, okay, that's good. And again, this pin here is that. Should be. Yep, that's it, that's good. And then I'm going to get that pin, just bend it the other way, like that, as close as I can, but not over it, but under it, like that, as close as I can to that pin right there. And then solder it. Done. Okay, let's test. So from this pin to this pin, great. And again, from this pin here to pin number 6, good, great, okay. So let's mark that one out as well. The mini servo signal pin, done. Next, let's go for the left continuous rotation servo. That should be connected to, it's hard to see the line, the digital pin number 10. So the servo on the left should go to digital pin number 10. And so that there is no confusion, I will label it as well. Should have done that earlier, but never too late. I wanted to leave the labels for later because they may interfere with the soldering, but it's okay. I'm going to do it now. So this is the left, motor left ML. And this is the right motor, MR. And the one in the middle is the motor for the sensor. So actually I didn't really need the M. It's obviously these are for the motors. So I could have just said left, right, sensor. Okay. I need another indicator here to tell me which ones is the signal, the positive voltage and then the ground, but I can do that later. All right. So as we were saying, the left servo signal should go to digital pin number 10. So this is the left, so it means that this pin here needs to go to digital pin number 10, that one up there. So it's 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, this one here needs to go to this pin right here. It's going to be tricky again. I'm going to push that blue wire to the side. That, and I'm going to use the same technique for that. So remove some insulation for one end, measure. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. That goes there. I'll measure it actually like this so that it makes it easier to cut. So that goes there. So I need to cut there. Okay. So let's work on the side of the pin, the Arduino pin first. Bend it downwards. Connect that into the pad like that. Maybe I can insert it under the blue wire just to help me keep it in place. Great, okay, double check, this is really pin number 10. Yep, you can see the end of the wire just poking out there. So it is pin number 10. So let's wire that in, let's solder it in. Done. Okay, it's going to be tricky. Try to avoid melting the blue wire right on top of it. So just got to be careful here. There you go, it's done. Let's double check that this is a good solder. So that with that. Oh, sorry. Multimeter is turned off. Okay. So that and that. Great, turn it over. And make sure motor on the left is properly connected to digital pin number 10. Great. Alright. So let's mark that off the wire, the diagram as well, so left is done. So last one is the right motor. Sorry about that. So the right motor signal should go to digital pin 11. Okay. So this pin here should go to digital pin 11 up there. All right. So is this going to be long enough? Might be. So digital pin 11 is right next to digital pin 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's number 4 from the right. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's this one right here. And that needs to go to this pin right here. So yeah, I think this is a good length wire. So I'm just going to remove its insulation and just use it as it is. So bend the ends. Okay, I'm going to leave the other end as it is. I'll decide how to use it in a minute. Alright, so that goes there. that, double checking I've got the right pin. Yep, it's right here, I can see it poking out, so that's pin 11. Okay. And that has to go, just give it a nice bend like that. And that has to go then and finish right there, right on that pin. I'll give it a bit of solder to prepare it. And then the tweezers to the last connection. Okay, I think that's it. Let's check it to make sure that I haven't done any bridges. Looks good. Oh, hang on. Yes. Okay, that's fine. And with a pin, yup, and flip it over. So we want this pin to go to digital pin 11. Great. All right. Let's mark that off. So the signal pin for the right motor is also completed. So done, done, done. So it looks like everything that needed to be done is done. All right, let's have a break and then we'll test the robot with the prototyping shield completed.